The Lenovo Legion Pro 7i Gen 10, aka 2025 edition, is here. I bought this laptop from the Lenovo Canada website myself. At the time, there was no real changes you could do with it. It was right at launch. So this one here is equipped with the RTX 5080, which is probably the one I would have bought anyways. Right now, you can actually get this with a RTX 5070 Ti, and you can also get an RTX 5090, 5080 being right in the middle. Depending on what you're looking for the laptop to do, longevity, price, that's going to kind of decide which one you go with. But what's interesting about this laptop is there's actually quite a few changes. Last year and the year before, there weren't huge changes from one another. I don't want to spoil too much in the intro here, but one thing that is a major change this year is it has a very, very high quality, beautiful OLED screen. One other thing to note here, I'm only going to do a little bit of game testing in this video because it would get crazy otherwise. However, I've done a lot of game testing already, so stay tuned for at least 2 more videos, depending on how I break them up, of exclusive game testing videos, because this is the type of laptop I need to give the time of day to have multiple game testing videos to show you how they perform. So come back for those as well, but right now we're going to jump into the review. The Legion here, like I said in the intro, has been I've actually had it for, I don't know, 4 days or something. It's been my daily driver, so yeah, I'm going into this not blind. It's hard to check the weight here. So we're looking at a moderately heavy laptop. I mean, it's a gaming laptop, 41 grams. So again, it's a gaming laptop. The charger is also fairly heavy. This thing, I mean, again, I've been using it, so let's do my best there. It's around, hard to measure, a little over 1,100 grams. So the whole package is fairly heavy, but again, heavy, big, large, powerful gaming laptop. It's not really shocking. To be honest, that's pretty much exactly what I would expect, similar to last year's and the year before. So, form factor here. You can see I give it a quick wipe down. It is black, so it is going to be prone to fingerprints if that bothers you. You can get a skin and that. People sell skins. Or you can just give it a quick wipe down, get the greasiness off, but it is a dark black chassis. I prefer silver. Some people like black laptops. It is a metal black laptop, so it does look nice. It's not a plasticky cheap thing. I prefer silver, literally for fingerprints. But you can see it's kind of an interesting design here. So we have this new redesigned bum back here, the little Gundam bum. It's clean. It looks neat, right? It's fairly well integrated with the upfiring speakers. You can see when it's closed. The Legion, I just put it to sleep. You can see the Legion does light up and glow. A little bit of Lenovo back there. Right? Not super thin, but for a powerful gaming laptop, it's also not super thick. There are much thicker gaming laptops out there. There are some thinner ones, but I don't think you'd really want it to be much thinner for the level of power that's inside of it. You make it thinner, you start to compromise things, right? So you do have some plasticky type materials, some metal, it's a mix. You can see it's got a Gundam double jet engine here, so when it wants to fly, these are where the afterburners are, and it goes really, really quick, and it shoots away. So they decided to really emphasize that. The bottom here, double fan intake, little baby fan there. You'll see later when we open it up. I haven't opened this laptop, by the way. I haven't watched any videos on it. I know Jared's Tech has done a review of it. At least I think he did. Did he? I feel like I commented on it. Yeah, but I didn't watch it because I want to go in blind. I've done research, but that's it. Speakers firing down. That's pretty cool. You can see they did move the I/O. So previous laptops, previous Legions from the other years before this had I/O on the back, specifically power and a bunch of stuff on the back. So you had the pain in the ass wires, basically like HDMI and power coming out the back there to really move it away from you. So you're flipping over there, you're typing on it, you know, the wires are away rather than the sides. From what I understand, Lenovo, I didn't go to CES this year, so I haven't spoken to them directly this year, but from what I understand, revamping the cooling. It makes sense. I mean, they have a big radiator all the way at the back, so the lefties are going to have to suffer through that there. It's fortunate. And the HDMI is over here. So the problem side with all the messy stuff is on the left there. It's fine, whatever. You do get 2 USB-C there, Thunderbolt there. I mean, it's an Intel laptop, you expect. USB-A, fast USB-A. So that's going to give you 10 gigabit, so 1,000 megabytes a second transfer speeds, about as fast as most common NVMe enclosures. And then the right side, you have more. So you have 2 more USB-A. So lots of USB-A is nice. You get 3 of them. That's obviously nice. You do get Ethernet there, the kind of hidden away kind of style. Camera kill switch, microphone headphone combo jack. So overall, I mean, yeah, you're not losing ports. They're just moving them around. Generally speaking, they're fine. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I prefer them out the back, but I can get why they do it. Glossy screen. You can see that there. Now, you'll see as we start to record the glossiness when the screen is on. You see it already get cut down. Especially in a dark room, it's not that bad. But of course, if you're in a really bright environment, like outdoors, for example, or you have a lot of overhead lights, glossy screens can be reflective. So that's a big change there. It's always worse on camera because it's like hard for me to get what I see. Like I don't see that. That's not what I'm seeing there. That's the angle of the camera. I see something more like that based on how tall I am. Like I'm looking down on this. So I'm going to try my best. I've actually done reviews recently where I'm like, damn it, I missed the camera. I'm going to try to make the camera see what I see if I was sitting at it. So I'll just have to manipulate it slightly. I see something probably more like that there. That's hard to say. I don't even see that reflection there, but whatever. It is what it is. Inside here, you can see, again, I didn't clean it yet. There are fingerprints all in here. I think I ate a scone last night when I was using it. So that's scone oil. I am not that greasy. And I kind of left it. I was just like, what, you know what? We're going to show the scone juice when doing the review because that's part of it. So it is a black keyboard, dark black keyboard. So you are going to be prone to getting fingerprints. Okay. So we're getting a little drier there. You can see we do have the cool Legion ring. They're really embracing that Legion symbol there. That's cool. Now, critically important here. This is the most important part of the laptop. Look at that. Look at that Oki. It's a Legion symbol. Attention to detail. It is actually cool. I'm kind of being like a jerk about it, but it is actually cool. Otherwise, it's very clean inside here. You can see that, they had the kind of design some years, some of them they don't. There's no up-firing speakers in here, but they've hidden them up here. So, some years before, we don't have that. We have just the firing down here, firing down there, boom. Here they've put them up there. You do get some rebounding speakerage right into your ears. I haven't had this thing cranked yet, but I have used it. And I mean, having stereo speakers right there, bouncing off the screen, going directly in your ears, it works, obviously. I mean, so you do get a lot of directional sound, and then of course you get the thumpers down there. So that's a big change, having that little step up there. And some people may not like it, but I think it looks cool. I mean, honestly, it looks all right. It's this clean little thing, right? It's not like an Ultrabook. I don't know, it looks pretty neat. And they did a good job designing it. Off-center trackpad, because they do have the keys with the keyboard with the numpad over here. If you don't like that, don't buy a Legion. I mean, it's just the way they are. They are definitely gaming laptops. And some people would be like, you don't need a numpad on a gaming laptop. But I think a fairly decent number of Legion users are not just gamers. Maybe they are gamers as well, but they're also using their Legion for professional tasks, like me. So that's cool. So that's basically the look up here. We have a camera bump out there, so you can get a little bit more camera. The design is quite nice. Wobble on the screen is very minimal. I mean, it's a brand new laptop. So, I mean, that's to be expected, and it's relatively firm. It's not a touch screen, like you're not over here touching it, so it doesn't matter. But it is fairly, wobble free. Look how quickly that's recovering. My desk is wobbly too, by the way. It's a quick recovery. Nice feeling hinge on there. Very, very firm. And I don't feel like kind of messing around looking at the laptop and that. There's no real serious pinch point where the laptop should pull apart based on those hinges, because you can see where the hinge is going into the speaker system here. So there's no torque from this hinge putting, pressure on the chassis here, where you'd expect the chassis to snap over time. Some laptops get that, over and over, and eventually start to get some pressure here and it snaps that off. No issue there, because the hinge on the screen is actually, into this kind of speaker tower here. So it's well designed, honestly. Structurally, it feels, it's heavy, but structurally it's rock solid. I mean, metal, and then metal bottom. This here is plastic, right? But it's generally like there's not a lot of flex in that. So it's just a nice feeling laptop, very structurally sound. So it's not like you're picking up some creaky plasticky thing. We don't have that issue here. Charging on the laptop, of course, you can use the built-in. You can use the provided power supply for maximum performance. You can charge over here, though. Front one, farther to the back there. This is a 130 watt Lenovo charger. Just you can get them for a pretty good price actually. So they're 130 watt charger, USB-C though. Go like that there. And you can see that the front one is not the charging port, the back one is. So you can charge off USB-C. Also Lenovo, but the cable is not. Good. So you can charge obviously with a 130 watt charger. You can also charge with a 100 watt charger. This is, some whatever cable, but it's a 100 watt Lenovo multi-port charger. So USB-C is capable. It's good because, if you're taking this with you and you're going to be charging with, playing some heavy gaming or something, you're going to take the big brick, obviously, because you're going to need that for max performance. But if you're just taking it, to class or whatever, to just do generic type work, typing, doing that kind of stuff, you're not necessarily going to want to take your big hefty charger with you. And at that point, USB-C being able to charge with USB-C is critical. Okay, very, 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 very easy to get into. You do need to put a little torque on it. So let's go like that. So what I did is I just put a little bit of torque on it like this, a little bit of torque, and I just took this basically decrepit thing and just put it in there, and it popped out. That's one of the advantages of these Legions being metal bottomed. It actually does help get inside a lot, honestly, it does. Like that, and you're basically in there at that point. Yeah, that looks good. Metal bottom, it's a thicker metal actually. That's probably contributing to the weight. Some kind of rune there, so that actually, if you read that out loud, it increases the power of your laptop because it summons a spirit of the Legion. Inside looks sick, actually. I can see why this thing is heavy. They did not screw around with cooling this year. Inside, I can see right off the bat, we have two massive fans. You can see they are quite thick as well. And they are the Lenovo style where they have the curved edge to them, which does reduce noise, basically turbulence, so you get less noise. Doesn't mean it's any quieter. I think it might actually, but that's not what they're really for. It doesn't necessarily mean it moves more air. Maybe it does, but it does reduce noise. There's no like whirring sound, so that's really nice. 5080 model, from my understanding, the 5090 model has the same internals there. I'm not sure about the 5070 Ti. It just basically popped up on the Canadian Lenovo store. I have no clue. So that cooling looks very good. Massive vapor chamber to cool the 5080 in here, which is a very high wattage 5080, and the CPU in here, which is a very high wattage CPU. In my testing, spoiler for the performance section, it does actually run surprisingly cool. It actually did surprise me right off the bat. I was like, man, this thing's actually running quieter and cooler than I expected. So that's good. They did not screw around there. Basically, we'll tie this into the performance section. You'll see that later. There's an auxiliary fan there, which will blow air over that. Gaming on battery is not really a thing with these laptops. I mean, you could, but you don't want to do that. So sure, that's an extra fan that's going to take more battery under performance mode, but don't do that. When you throw this thing in balance mode, silent mode, and you're just doing day-to-day tasks, the fans are exceptionally quiet. Another spoiler for you guys. So don't worry about those multiple fans there. We actually have a ton more cooling, passive cooling here in these cases over other aspects of the laptop. So we have NVMe 1 under there, NVMe 2 under there. You can see that. This one is non-populated. This one is populated. I don't know if you can see that. Which means that you're actually going to get really, really nice cooling off of these here. Now, you're not going to have tons of air flowing over them. You do get a nice heat soak here to keep these other components cool because, yeah, I mean, you do want to keep your CPU and GPU cool and your VRMs and that, but you also want to keep your NVMe cool. Your Wi-Fi is under there, and you also want to keep your two SODIMM, your two RAM sticks there as well cool because otherwise they're going to get super, super hot. Other things inside here, we can see that it does have a very large battery. That's the largest you can get, 99.9 watt-hour battery. You can't get a bigger one. Two of the down firing speakers here firing up there. The other stuff is up here firing at you. You can't see them. You can't access them very easily because they're in that little tower of power over there. But yeah, you do have those over there. Upgrading, you're going to have to take this off and get inside. There is basically a screw here as well that you have to take out. I took this one out too. I don't think that one had to come out. So that one can go back. But you do have to take out that one. So when pulling this up here, be careful. There is a little fan connector there. There's some type of coprocessor there. Not sure exactly what it is. There is two of the VRAM modules here. So that fan there is actually sitting on there and blowing air potentially partially over that. So make sure you don't mess that up because that's actually sitting on a couple of the VRAM modules. I think that's what those are. whatever the other, some type of memory module. So don't mess those up. We do have upgradable Wi-Fi sitting under here. Very good. The first NVMe is there. The second NVMe is there. So it's a little harder to access this type of stuff, whereas the previous Legions, you could just pop that off, right? And then there was a connector there and a connector there separately. So you wanted to upgrade this, you pop the thing off. You wanted to upgrade this, you pop the thing off. You want to upgrade these, you pull it off. Whereas this is one complete unit here. It doesn't really matter because they're focused more on cooling here. Now, the RAM here is very fast. I don't know what it is, so I actually want to take a little video part there. You can see 6,400 megatransfers, and it is Micron. Yeah, it's a Micron symbol, so Crucial, same brand. So it's very fast RAM in here, which will allow the CPU to perform better. This will allow the whole system to be a little bit snappier, but especially on that CPU. So there is fast RAM there. So, I mean, if you get this and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this with 32 gigabytes, and now I'm going to upgrade it and put in 64 gigabytes or 96 gigabytes or something like that. Yeah, you can do that, but you're probably going to get slower RAM. So if I, for example, came in here and I popped in like one of these kits here, the 64 gigabyte kit, this is slower RAM. It'll work. It's not going to be a problem. It's not going to make your laptop not work anymore. So if you really need RAM, sure, you can do that. But just be aware that the RAM here is actually faster. So right now, that's not cheap stuff to buy. So depending on how much it is to upgrade from Lenovo, if you need more RAM, this is a case where I might say actually legitimately buy it. Just do the upgrade on the upgrade path through the Lenovo builder, because this stuff is not going to be cheap to buy upgrading. Assuming you're okay, you want to have those faster speeds. Keyboard time. So other than the fact that it has fingerprints all over it, because I'm a greasy boy, it's a nice keyboard. So we'll give it a quick typing test here. You can see me reflected there. That's not what I see. I see something closer to that, if even. But we can see we do have the traditional Legion keyboard. So relatively decently large keycaps. Very nice. And you're going to get lots of travel because they're Legion keyboard. You do get a full dedicated numpad. Tiny bit shrunk, but still a full dedicated numpad. Then, of course, you're going to get your dedicated function keys with embedded, stuff like volume up, volume down. You can swap that out so that now it's a function, your pick. You do have a Copilot button. That's an unfortunate thing. And then you can see you do have full RGB. RGB is controlled in Legion space, I guess. So we have multiple presets here. So we have 6 different presets. I'm not sure, like a lot of them come unpopulated, as you can see. But we have our little rainbow thing there. That's one of them. And then static color. And then the rest are just, like, for now, just blank. You can come in here into Legion space and we can mess around. And you can do all your controls here. So you can change the Legion logo there, as you saw I was doing parts there. It's purple now. The bum, the Gundam bum, you can control all that in here. Kind of like an Alienware, actually, I guess. Ooh. So we're going to make it purple. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go WASD. And I'm just going to change the tone. So that was that there. Maybe make it that tone there. That's just my thing. I apologize in advance. I'm boring. It's just my thing. Cool. That looks nice. It's much easier on my eyes. It's a nice, little color, but it doesn't burn my retinas and it's not distracting. That's the other thing. So anyways, you can do that in there. Now we'll get into a typing test after that 5 minutes of detour. So let's get into here and do a quick type here. Yeah, I mean, it's a Legion keyboard. It's one of the best you can get in the market. I prefer the Legion 7i Slim, or whatever they call it now, the Slim one. For some reason, I don't know, maybe because it's a metal top, it's just slightly snappier. But this is one of the best keyboards on the market, just straight up. It is. And for gaming laptops, it's like way ahead of most. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Numpad, you can bang out some numbers there if need be. I've noticed they fixed, there was a little bit of a keyboard flex, like a dead zone last year on the Gen 9, where there's probably a fan or something going on there. So it was all super, super sturdy, and there was no keyboard flex, and there was a little bit of a soft dead zone there. It wasn't bad, but there was a little bit of a flex there last year. Gone this year. There's none of that. It's super sturdy up there. So despite the fact that that's a plastic keyboard deck, it's still quite nice. It's very, very nice to type on. So the only negative, honestly, the only negative up here is just, fingerprints. The trackpad is the optimal size. You don't need something that comes up here and takes up the entire thing, because then your hands are sitting on trackpad all the time. This is the perfect size, at least I find. It's the perfect size that for when I'm typing, I'm not touching it ever. Right? My hands just slightly rest up, and there's just enough clearance that I'm never touching the trackpad. It's perfect. And then I can come down here and do that. And look at this. It's off-centered. Some people get bothered by that. They're like, it should be over here. Yeah, but then you're typing here, and you want to come down and use your trackpad, and it's not there. Unless it was super long, right? Here, it's over your typing. So when you're using a Legion, you don't type over here. It's not a central laptop because it has a numpad. So what you do is you go like this. Watch this. This is the really challenging part. Right? So rather than typing here, you go like that. Mind blown. Okay, so let's do an audio test before the screen test, because the screen is where things are going to get really different here. But there still is some pretty cool audio stuff going on here. So we do have 2 speakers there. Let's see if you can see that. Let's get a little bit of lighting here. You're going to get a lot of reflectivity. That's fine. You can see that there, 1 and 2. There are 2 upfiring speakers there this year. Very neat, because those allow that to bounce off there, come right into the ears of the listener, which does improve acoustics because you have the boomers down here and then you have those coming up. I haven't listened to it very loud, but I have listened to it, and it was pretty good. But let's get in here and let's do a real test here. Okay, so just watch your headphones for this part here, because I'm expecting it to get fairly loud. And I don't do too much correction. I do a little bit, mute a little bit in post-processing, but I like to leave it a little bit louder so you can hear it. Okay, I'm going to start turning it up. Okay, so audio-wise, what do I think about it? They're fantastic. There are a few models of laptops out there that would have better audio, usually like very creator style focused laptops. That's something that they prioritize. But for a gaming laptop, this is going to be one of the best you're going to use. Last year's model had awesome audio as well. It just was nice and clear, tons of bass, not as much as a creator laptop, but still lots of bass for a gaming laptop. And it was loud, and there was a lot of clarity from the low end all the way up to the high end with no rattle. It's basically the same here, but the difference is here now you have these guys right here that the positioning and everything about them really does just improve the spatial audio. So you have these firing down, giving you some, music down there, some audio down there. These fire right, and they bounce off the screen, come right into your ears. So it sounds fantastic. It's a very enjoyable audio experience. This is the type gaming laptop you'll see when we get to the performance side that you could easily use without headphones, because you'll see the laptop doesn't run too loud. And then there's really loud audio and very clear audio. So it's the type of laptop that you're not going to be like, well, whatever, I'll use headphones, right? You don't need to with this one potentially, unless you don't want to irritate other people. But the speaker setup here is very good. Now, let's check the screen here. Now, probably the biggest change this year. There's all kinds of cool changes here with this laptop, new specs, new stuff, internals, yada, yada, yada. The biggest change is the screen, straight up. That's the thing where they're like, all right, let's take something from last year, tweak a bunch of stuff, but there's something we need to change to be like, here's the mic drop, and it's an OLED screen. Previous years, none of the Legions had an OLED other than the 14-inch, the Slim 5, was the only one with an OLED screen. So this now is a 16-inch OLED on the most powerful model that Lenovo has for now, 4080, 4090, or 5080, 5090, whatever. Now, 1600p, It's not, 4K or anything like that, but that's going to be a really sweet spot for very good gaming. At 16 inches, 1600p is very crisp. So it's kind of the perfect resolution for gaming. Of course, you can output from the laptop to a desktop if you want to do 4K gaming. And yes, the GPU can handle it for sure, especially with scaling and stuff these days. DLSS 4 and multi-frame Gen 4 times, whatever. But that resolution is perfect. Now come down here, super high refresh rate, 240 hertz /60. Now there's no dynamic mode where you unplug the battery and it goes down to 60. So if you're worried about battery, you probably would want to throw that in 60. We'll do my tests in 60. Normally, I'll be like, whatever, we'll just test it as it is. But this is the case where it's like, that's very high. So going down to 60 will improve battery life, but that's a super high refresh rate screen. The other cool thing is here, being an OLED screen means you get absolute blacks. Now that doesn't look, that's about what I see there. You're going to get absolute blacks. Now, the previous year, this model here, at least the Intel one from last year, was 100% DCI-P3 color space. There are multiple color spaces that you can get on laptops. I'll just be very straightforward here. There are crap screens that are 45% NTSC. Those are very common on gaming laptops, usually at the lower end, but even some of the nicer ones have 45% NTSC screens. The reds will look like crap. They'll look pink, garbage. They will not look good. You will not like them. So avoid those unless it's a super cheap laptop. So that's 100%. That's 45% NTSC. Then you can move up to 100% sRGB, which a few years ago, the Gen 8s, Gen 7s, and those, and I think the Gen 9 AMD had 100% sRGB, which is where it started to get nice. You're going to get nice, vibrant reds, good colors. Everything's going to look great. This one here, like last year from Intel, has 100% DCI-P3 color space. That's when you're getting hella serious with a screen. 100% DCI-P3 color space is going to give you very, very, very vibrant reds. A lot of people come in, you can see me reflected. A lot of people come into these laptops and they say, they go from an IPS screen and then they go into an OLED screen and they say, oh my God, it's life altering. Everything is so good. I've never seen a screen like this before in my life. OLED is the best thing ever. Well, OLED is good. But what they're actually getting shocked by is the color space. It's the color space, because they're going from this muted world where there's just no color, and all of a sudden you moved into this beautiful color space. That's where you start to see things like the person's skin color here is more natural. It's got a warm tone to it. These reds are very vibrant. Everything's looking very vibrant and crisp here on those reds. Going to 100% DCI-P3 color space, like the last year's model, was a huge jump. And that's why I really liked last year's model screen. Here they've made one more step forward, and they've also given it an OLED. So you have a high refresh, relatively fine resolution. You have 100% DCI-P3 color space, and it's an OLED. So you have absolute blacks in here. The downside is it's a glossy OLED. It's a glossy OLED. Non-glossy OLEDs are going to be somewhat muted. So if you get an OLED like this with 100% DCI-P3 color space, and you start to mute that, you start to make it non-glossy, it will mute the colors. It still will look good, but it will look muted. Here, they've just said, screw it. You're going to have reflections. Unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with it. However, you're going to get the best possible viewing experience with reflections that you can possibly get. If you're in a dark room or a room that doesn't have a lot of, overhead lights, it's going to look crazy good because you're going to get the vibrancy of the DCI-P3 color space, and you're going to get the absolute blacks of the OLED. And because it's non-matte, it's a glossy screen, the blacks are going to look absolutely incredibly deep, and the colors are going to pop off the screen. There was the same debate, if you know Steam Decks, for example. I talk about this stuff sometimes, but a lot actually. But if you know the Steam Deck, there was the Steam Deck OLED, the non-glossy and the glossy. The glossy screen looked better, more vibrant, more rich, darker blacks, but it's reflective. So just be aware of that. You are going to get reflective, but there's a reason for it. It's not like where they're like, well, we're just going to basically come in here and, give you a screen and too bad, right? Like, too bad, just deal with it, right? We're not going to do that. There is a reason. If they put in a non-glossy OLED, it wouldn't be as rich. It would handle reflections better, which could be good and good for some people, but you would get somewhat muted colors. In these 100% DCI-P3 color space, greens are also incredibly vibrant. 100% sRGB would also look good, but if you go to a lower tier screen, these greens, this looks like dead grass on when they put crappy screens in these laptops. This all looks dead. it looks yellow. And you're looking at these scenes, and you're looking at these games. You're playing games like, let's say, Horizon Forbidden West, which we will test in this video, and you're like, whoa, this doesn't look so good. And then you throw it on a screen like this, 100% DCI-P3 OLED with, nice bright screen as well, and you're going to be like, holy crap, my eyes have been closed this entire time. So it's a fantastic screen. The only negative, in my opinion, the only negative with the screen here is that it is glossy. I don't care myself. I'm fine with that, but you need to be aware of it. If you use this in very high reflective environments, you can see me, right? There is some reflectivity there, right? I don't really see that because I'm sitting at a different angle. It makes it hard to film because I've been filming. Sometimes I record a video and I see that, for example, like my face, like look at this guy. But that's not what I see. I'm actually seeing, what do I see here? Let's see what you guys see. That's what I see there, right? And this is a fairly well-lit room. You can see everything's well-lit, right? Enough to even have shadows, fairly well-lit. Once you turn the lights off, it's going to get much better, okay? Now, it's not a completely black room, right? Like it's still, there's still stuff going on in here, right? But look at the reflections now. Right? You can see the keyboard like that, but can you see me anymore? Can you see me? Can you see me? No, you can't. So it's a situational screen. This is an extremely situational screen where if you are working in a very bright environment, in a high reflective environment, this might be one, you might say, okay, well, I don't necessarily want that one. I'm going to get an IPS screen, but in every other scenario, it's going to be killer. Some videos, with laptops, I usually use them for the day of, maybe a couple days, and just kind of do the review. It depends on the laptop. Some of them I use for a long period of time. This is a case where I've been using this laptop for several days, and as a primary driver, like literally this is my laptop right now. I'm not using anything else. So as a result, I've been doing my video editing on this laptop. So how is it doing video editing on this laptop? It's a brand new project here. I edited this video on this laptop. Look at that. Camera's freaking out because of the OLED. Come in here. Watch how fast this is. So we bring that in. Boom. This is a 51-minute 4K video. It's a very large video. Watch how fast this audio processes. Did you see that? It was so fast that I didn't see it. That's how fast these things go. Like this CPU is super fast. Super, super fast. It literally was just like soup, and it processed. That normally what happens depending on the CPU. You'll watch it go across, especially for a freaking hour video. You'll watch it creep across as it processes the audio. That's not the case here. It doesn't need to do that. It's very fast. Okay, so we'll come in here. We'll just do a little test export type thing. So we'll come in there. We'll put it where the other thing was, my video export there. Put it in here, and we'll just call it, sure, let's call it test. So I know delete it after. This is a 4K video, 4K 60, HEVC, which is slower than other modes. It actually compresses it down more. So it's very, very slow. But watch how fast this is. This is a 51-minute video. So I'm not going to expect you to sit here, but this is going to be very fast. I'd also like to quiet this thing is while I'm doing video editing. I'm doing a video export here. I have another computer on. I have to turn that off. This is normally on normal laptops, normal human being laptops. When I'm doing a video export, they're just like, they're so freaking loud. Watch this. This is in performance mode. 30 freaking 6 dB is very quiet. Normally I have my laptop on my lap and I'm doing a video export and it's just this noisy mess, absolutely super loud and annoying. Right, and just a proof of concept here. The GPU is full use, 97% usage, right? Very quiet. Also, by the way, I've been like messing around with this. It should be faster, but I keep getting out and messing around. But it's very, very, very fast for video editing. And it is very, very, very quiet for video editing. This laptop is meant to be relatively quiet and then run quite cool under full double load in gaming. So you're in a game super demanding. The GPU is under 100% load. The CPU is also getting absolutely slammed, and it can keep it cool. The GPU is taking all the tasks. It is the quietest video export that I've ever experienced under full performance mode. Like I put it silent, it would just be super slow. So I don't think we need to watch this go any further. This is synced up properly. We're going to be looking at a 4.5 minute export on HEVC on a 51-minute 4K video edit. Oh, by the way, I checked GPU-Z, or Z as we call it in Canada. Look at all them ROPs. I have all of them. Yeah, that's nice. Here we do have these different modes as well: quiet, balance, performance, and the difference here is now we have custom. So you can come in here and you can set up various custom settings depending on how you want to set it. You can come in here and you can say potentially, okay, so we'll come in here. It's a little laggier, Legion space. It probably needs a little work, to be honest, but it's a little bit laggier than. And then you can tweak in your custom mode here. So you do have some different options here, like you can go, add more or whatever. So you couldn't do that last year. Legion Space is an improvement. Last year we were tied into having it in Vantage here. Vantage was fine, but you were really locked into the Vantage software. So any limitations to tweaking, that kind of stuff, you were really stuck with whatever you could get in. You're really stuck with whatever you could get in Vantage. Here, it's Legion Space. It's fully redesigned for these laptops, so it's more versatile. We'll put it that way. There's more you can do in here because it's designed for these laptops. So you can add more custom modes here. Last year you couldn't do that. You'd have your custom mode, but it was your custom mode, period. There was one of them. Now you could come in here and you could say, I want one mode for this type of gaming, one mode for this type of gaming, then maybe a heavy CPU game, whatever you can change that. Now, you can come in here and you can go total processor power, 55 watts. That is actually a lot. You can crank it way up to 130, which is crazy. But maybe you're a low resolution gamer. You put your system into 1080p, and then you want the CPU to just absolutely tear because you're playing, Call of Duty or something like that. That would make sense. You actually would want to have more CPU power because you're going to be really CPU bound. You can do long-term stuff. So that's total processing. You can do long-term stuff, all kinds of stuff here. You can do GPU now here. So we can do dynamic boosting, which is cool. It's actually percentage, which is interesting. How much dynamic boost will the CPU and the GPU share? Because with these platforms, you only have so much watts. So the whole laptop can handle X number of watts. Let's just throw out a number and say 250 watts, right? That's how much the laptop can handle. Therefore, maybe the GPU is rated for 180 watts and the CPU is rated for 100 watts. That's too many watts. That's too many W's. You can't do that because that's 280. The laptop can only do 250. So that's when boosting comes. So it will basically juggle. It'll juggle watts back to the CPU and GPU depending on the need. If you're in a heavy CPU game or a heavy CPU scene, lots of loading, the GPU will toss some load and some basic wattage over to the CPU, let the CPU do stuff, and then you're back into a part where it's all graphical, not a lot of processing going on for the CPU. CPU will toss the power back to the GPU, right? Here it's just basically CPU's allowing the GPU to take more power if need be. Take it all. You can also set CPU short-term power limits, right? So it could do super boosting for super intensive CPU tasks. GPU can give stuff back to the CPU. There's all kinds of stuff in here, thermal limits and that kind of stuff. You can get real serious in here. You can set your fans. You can say, I don't want it to, I want it to get hot before the fans kick in, right? So I can say, I want it to get to a certain temperature, then the fans can kick in, right? You can do stuff like you can really lower the CPU. If you're in a super GPU heavy game, that's pretty low. Okay, maybe not 10, but you could say, I don't want the CPU to have too much power. It doesn't need it, right? I'm going to give it only 30, 35 watts, something like that. But I want the GPU to have everything it wants. GPU just, right? GPU 150 watts, all the way you want. I don't even care. Take all the watts rather than doing like that because that's a super GPU heavy game, but not a very CPU heavy game, right? It's very, very GPU bound. So you're going to be able to bring the temperatures down the CPU, throw all those watts into the GPU, right? The reason you do that is because these performance modes here, the preset ones, are not going to necessarily be always the same, right? So they're going to decrease wattages to the CPU and the GPU, both of them. So the performance, it'll let it rip, whatever. It's red, so it's angry. Let it rip. Just let her go. Balanced will, bring down the wattage on the CPU and the GPU, both of them. Quiet, even further. But maybe you don't want that. Maybe you say, when I do that, the Intel CPU, because Intel CPUs generally like to have watts, is choked too much, right? Or maybe it's like, it's moving everything down. So, quiet mode is maybe 33 on the CPU, but it's also only, 80 on the GPU. And you're like, well, that's kind of weak. I want the CPU to be low so that is going to be taking not quite as many watts, but the GPU can have whatever it wants. Like, that's a weird setup, but you can do that, right? Maybe you're gaming at 4K on a 4K screen externally, right? You hook this up to an external display, and you're going to be very GPU bound at that point. CPU is going to be still doing stuff, but it's not going to be getting slammed. And so you give all the watts to the GPU and let the CPU just kind of chill out. So I'm going to do that. Let's go with a fairly CPU light mode here, like that. Something like that. It's pretty low on the CPU, to be honest. CPU platform short-term power limit. Okay, turn that way down. GPU to CPU power boosting. Let's go like that. We'll turn that down slightly there. So this is a very GPU heavy setup, very CPU light. You can do a lot of tweaking in here in general. So very cool. You can do that. Let's come in here and we'll go into our performance mode. We'll let it rip, check the watts, and then we'll do balance and silent. We'll come back in the benchmark with the actual benchmark, performance, see what it actually does. But let's come in here and just see how noisy it is and what the thermals are like. So the CPU here, wattages, very high, 185 watts. This is technically a desktop processor. These HX processors are literally a desktop. So this one here, you take the 275HX, it's just a desktop processor thrown into a laptop, right? Like, look at that performance, right? 31,779. It's very high, right? You're going to be limited here by power, but also by wattage and cooling. So it's actually doing a very good job of maintaining that. Wow, okay. So we hit a peak of 183. I was trying to make a point there, being like, it can't keep itself cool. And then the watts are going to go like way down, but it's doing a pretty good job. It is dropping slightly. Go down momentarily, basically to keep itself cool. Right? Like, there is some throttling, but again, this is a desktop processor running at 165, 170, 185, up to 193 watts in a laptop. So that's fine. See thermal throttling, and then you'll get some bouncing up and down the CPU. It'll throttle for a second, wattage will drop, then it will boost back up, allowing your performance to be very good. It actually went up for some reason. Very good. Noise now, we'll come back. It may sound very loud on camera, but I'm going to be honest, it's not that loud for a gaming laptop with a desktop processor running under full load. Some gaming laptops get up to like 55, 60 dB, which is really loud. The most important thing here, though, is not just how loud it is, it's the acoustics. Those fans are not annoying. They're not annoying. It's just air movement sound, like a room fan, for example. Some laptops, the fan is really annoying and it goes like zzz, or there's a whirring sound, like a woo, 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 something like that, and it will drive you crazy. It drives me crazy. Not here, it's just the air movement sound. It's not quiet, but it's relatively quiet for what's going on here. So we'll come in here, we'll drop that down to a balance mode, check the watts. Huge drop down, 100 watts, 92. Still giving a lot of watts, right? 85, significantly quieter. 44 is what I consider like an Ultrabook, like a thin Ultrabook laptop under full load, which typically, if they're a good Ultrabook, aren't going to be loud. It's still giving a lot of watts there. We'll go down to silent now, or quiet. Watts should peak drop down, see, 68. Now that's 50. You'll see when we get to the benchmark sections, it should still be able to do a lot with that. It's not obviously going to be as performant, but these Intel chips are slowly getting more efficient than they used to be. So you can still, like, you can just put in silent mode and just use your laptop like all the time. And unless you're doing, okay, I need to do some 4K video exports or something like that. Okay, now I'll throw in performance mode. But silent mode is like, it's not some like weak-looking little thing, right? Like, it's going to be very performant. And at this point, it's silent. This laptop is so quiet right now in silent mode. that it is quieter than my ceiling fan on my roof that is now turned on. And I'm going to leave this portion in. Sometimes I just wait for it to turn off. But I want to prove the point that my house is now noisier than this laptop, just existing. So let's get into the actual benchmarks now, see how they perform in terms of settings when we don't have all this other crap open at the same time.
Quick look at some benchmarks here. 36,000 on performance mode in Cinebench. That is to date the fastest Cinebench score I've got on a laptop. So obviously very impressive. We're dropping down a little bit here. 25,000, still very acceptable considering it's running so much quieter. So if you're not doing some super CPU heavy tasks, obviously you can throw it in balance mode. And honestly, going down to silent mode is still giving us 17,000. 17,000 is basically as fast as last generation non-HX processors could get realistically, 13700, those kind of CPUs. So very, very, very good performance out of the CPU, even in silent mode. So unless you're in the very, very CPU heavy task, honestly, just leave it in silent mode. The SSD included here is a nice SK Hynix Gen 4 upper tier Gen 4 drive, very fast. SK Hynix is my preferred brand of SSD. Wi-Fi is as fast as my Wi-Fi can go, so can't test any faster than that. Battery here is where things start to drop off quite a bit. So we can see here we're at 60 Hz refresh and 100% brightness, just kind of hanging out here idling in Windows for a little while, and we are burning battery. So we're burning around 27 watts just hanging out here. So that'll give us about 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours, 4 if you're lucky, just hanging out doing not much, so not great. Then I did fire up some 1080p 60 YouTube, same settings otherwise, and again, we're burning quite a bit here, around 30-ish watts being burned, just kind of watching YouTube, up to 40 when it's buffering. So I mean, yeah, you're not going to get a lot of battery doing tasks like this. 2.5 hours probably at best when you're just kind of watching some YouTube. And then I just did some casual messing around in Windows, went into the Lenovo website, did some browsing, clicking around in Windows, that kind of stuff. And yeah, it drops down a little bit, down to around 32, which will give you about 2 to 3 hours again. It's the same idea. So the performance on the laptop is truly outstanding, but it's definitely not going to be one you're going to want to look at if you need to get all-day battery. Luckily, it does support USB-C charging, so you can just pop a little USB-C charger in your bag. But if you're looking for a laptop that's going to get you through an 8-hour flight, this is not the one.
Okay, webcam time. It's good webcam. I can see right off the bat. I have horrible lighting. I have a messy area behind me with a coffee cup on it, but that's okay. I've been testing. I'm doing video stuff. It's a good. I actually do have less lighting than I normally do for my webcam because I didn't feel like getting up, walking over there and pressing the light switch because I'm tired. It's midnight and I'm still recording benchmarks. Honestly, the polling rate is really good, quite good. And the camera itself is good. The saturation is a little overexposed, but it's because it's dark here. Darker than it may look. So if you're actually using this as like a streamer, for example, gaming on your Legion and then streaming from your Legion, and you don't want to have a separate camera, you could actually use this. Throw it in OBS, throw it in the corner. This is a really nice webcam. For a gaming laptop, this is a crazy good webcam. But honestly, I'd be happy to use this. I would stream from this, honestly. If I was doing like a stream, which I don't do, but if I was, I would just use this, honestly. I wouldn't even set up another camera. I would just have my game capture on the device itself in the center, and I would just have my actual webcam, like this here, up in the corner. This is really good. Shockingly good. It's an expensive laptop. It should have a good webcam, and it does. Okay, now this is why everybody's here. Gaming laptop, gaming. Now, I am going to have a full gaming video after this, at least one. Maybe 2, maybe 3, I'm not sure, but at least one more video, just a pure game test video. I was going to probably do game capture, but I might actually just record it because it's got an OLED screen. It's half the freaking selling feature of this laptop. So we're going to look at the performance here. Now, this has been running for a minute or two. I actually filmed some other stuff while it was running. Let's check how noisy it is under full performance. Sub 50 is very good for a upper level, very powerful laptop. 5080 GPU, 275HX CPU. Lenovo's not screwing around with cooling this year. And from that, it's not just that it's running quiet, it's running relatively cool. 86 on the CPU, could go cooler, but again, run a performance mode. This thing's been running for like 5 to 10 minutes. GPU 73. So there's obviously, they could technically put in even louder, larger fans, but they don't need to. it's going to be able to run relatively quiet, but also keep itself cool. Now, we'll get into the actual settings and performance here in a minute, but let's check some other stuff here. Now, system RAM, 18 gigabytes, so it's nice that we don't have, 16 gigabyte RAM system there. Very good. VRAM, 7.32. This game is actually not that bad for VRAM. Some games are worse, Indiana Jones. This system here having 16 gigabytes is going to allow it to stretch its legs, so that's very good. Nice improvement there. Wattages on the CPU, on the GPU, sorry, 160 watts. So you can see the GPU, it's rated at 150, but like I said in the Legion Space section, it's able to cross-load between the GPU and CPU. Black Myth here is not a very CPU-heavy game. By the way, I have a very hard time showing CPU there. Let's see if we can bring that up in hardware info. But yeah, your CPU here, it's not going to be needed as much, right? We're only at 11% because it's a very GPU-heavy game. So the CPU is just passing some watts over to the GPU. It's just like here, I'll pass the baton. Now, I do want to show CPU power, so I am going to run hardware info as well, which does take a little bit of resources. So we're probably taking a little bit off the top of the CPU, but whatever, it's for the sake of it here. In the game, the GPU is up to 160 watts. CPU isn't as needed here, so we're at 50 watts, 53 watts, whatever. The CPU can go way higher, obviously. We've shown that, but it doesn't need to. So what's going to happen here is the CPU is going to share some watts with the GPU. These systems can only handle so many watts. Like, it doesn't have a 1,000-watt power supply and the ability to cool 1,000 watts. So there is some limitation on the raw power of the system. So the CPU and GPU can share it. But what's nice about that is if you're in a game like this that's very GPU heavy, the CPU will not be at full load and it's going to pass some watts off to the GPU. And you can see there, while this is a 150-watt GPU, it's actually not. It's able to boost up to 160 without issue. Let's come down to balance mode here. Check the wattage here. A little bit drop on the CPU, maybe 20. It's going to figure it out. Bounce around a little bit there. The GPU is way down, right? 92. Bouncing around a little bit too. We'll go all the way down to silent there. We'll check the performance as we go in the different modes, but you can see here, whatever we're in here, we're actually still above 6, well above 60 even in silent mode, and we're only at 68 watts there and 22. So whatever settings we're on, silent mode is good enough. Right? It's very quiet. So you can do a lot of silent mode gaming on these Legions. Depending on the game, I actually do a lot of silent mode. Typically in games that are more GPU heavy, not so CPU heavy, I actually do a lot of silent mode gaming. Because you're at 40 freaking dB, it's so quiet. Go to balanced. This is where I think a lot of people want a game. You're gonna, if you need the most demanding titles, AAA, modern AAA titles, and you need to really let it rip, you throw in performance mode, and it's a little noisier, but you'll get those extra watts. But you'll be impressed with how much performance you can get out of balance mode. And it's a 42, 43 dB. Very good. Okay. So that's good. We'll turn a little bit of sound here because this thing has nice speakers too. Let's go in the settings. Let's put it back into performance mode. We'll just let it rip. This is a benchmark. We'll rip through these performance as we go, the different modes. And again, I'm going to have a full follow-up video, full follow-up gaming video, at least one, if not two, probably more than one, where I'll test games. I'll probably do 5 games per video, and I'll do 2 or 3 videos. That's what I'm thinking of doing. So 1600p. DLSS is on, frame gen is on, ray tracing is off right now, but we're also on cinematic. So I mean, this is desktop level. And again, we have DLSS 4 now, so it looks really good, right? So 104 watts in cinematic. This is not high. I don't play this game on cinematic because it's so freaking hard to run on cinematic that I usually just like, screw it. We're gonna throw it on high. Most of the time, if I'm gaming on like a 4060 or something, I'm just like, nah, man, we're gonna put this on like low or medium at best. Probably medium at best. So you're gonna get an easy 103 average here. The lows, I mean, the 0.1% lows are good, actually, 778. And the 0.1% lows are fine, honestly. I'm not noticing micro stutter. All right. It's running pretty well. play with the settings in that too. But now we're at 105, 81, 82. Let's throw those modes through. We'll go down to performance, to balanced. So what do we drop there? It's actually, yeah, 8. It's still really good. The 1% lows did come down a little bit. But I mean, the split is fine. Now, I mean, this is easy above 60 gaming. This is actually how I game. I don't need to play games like this at 120 FPS. You can if you want. It's your laptop. But I usually, I'd be very happy with 78 on here with good lows. It's fine. We'll throw it back into silent now. Oh, there's a person. Try to sneak up on me, bro. I'm on a Legion. Come on now. I'm gaming at the max. Silent mode is silent, and look at that. Look at the split. And now, do you guys see why I game on silent mode half the time? 67, 68 average, 48 for the 1% lows, and 27 for the 0.1% lows in that moment. It was actually higher a second ago. Like, this is 60 FPS gaming on freaking silent mode, right? I mean, 4 years down the road, in 2029, some of the games are probably going to be so hard to run that you're probably not going to be in silent mode anymore. You're going to be like, all right, screw it. We got to throw some performance. But these games, like 2024 games, nothing to a 5080. Nothing to it. Okay, we're back. Let's check the settings now. Very high. So very high ray tracing. Cinematic presets. Frame gen on, of course. DLSS on, whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, you have access to these technologies. They're getting better and better. I've always been cool to use them, but it's getting to the point now where like nobody can deny. Okay, so max. Full ray tracing at very high with also cinematic presets, and look at the freaking performance. Above 60. Easy above 60. With honestly only moderate scaling, to be honest. It was like, what was it, 74? It's pretty darn good. Again, we're at 1600p, so it's not like we're going to get potato mode, especially with modern DLSS 4. It looks so freaking good. Holy crap. Okay, yeah, so. Right. NVIDIA is really pushing the DLSS technology, like as a selling feature, but also they're making it better. DLSS 4 is very good. I've used it quite a bit. This is my first laptop with a 5080. But I have a 5080. I've tested a 5080 desktop. I've tested a 5070 Ti, and with frame gen and that kind of stuff. And I've also tested, 4000 series with frame gen, with DLSS 4. DLSS 4 is amazing. It looks really good. Right? DLSS 4 looks as good as, like on performance, as DLSS 3 looked on quality. And you can watch Digital Foundry's video. They agree. Put it that way. So that's that. Okay, that's that video. Long story short, gaming on this laptop is going to be crazy. It's going to be so good. You're paying a lot of money for these laptops, and you really want them to perform, and they do. So that's nice. Come back for my other video. I'm going to do a lot of testing. Not today. I'm too tired. But I will test it, and then I'll finish off this, review or whatever. Come back and talk about that. But I'm going to have 2 separate videos, I think. Maybe 3, but definitely 2. Game testing. But suffice it to say, I'm going to die now. I'm in danger. Run away. Okay, so what do I think about the Lenovo Legion Pro 7i 2024 edition? Well, they've made a lot of changes on this laptop. However, it's not like the price just all of a sudden inflated out of nowhere and they're just like, all right, now they cost way more. There's a lot of changes and a lot of improvements that have went into this laptop that justify an increase in price. Whether you think that's fair or not from, NVIDIA and Intel and all these people who are supplying parts, that go have beef with them. You can have a talk with Lenovo as well. But when it comes down to it, there's an increase in price in this laptop a lot. But at least it makes sense. It's not just like a random price increase. We'll see how things like tariffs and that affect pricing overall. But right now they are a little bit pricey, for sure. There will be sales, but it is an outstanding laptop. Now we've got the price part out of the way. Let's get into the positives and the negatives and the changes. So, changes, major internal changes to this laptop. Major internal changes in terms of how they're cooling it. We'll talk about whether that's good or bad. We're also getting faster RAM in here as well. The chassis design itself has changed. We're actually getting all of the I/O removed from the back. Right? There used to be I/O on the back there, and now rather than being on the back, it's on the sides. We're not actually losing the I/O, it's just being repositioned. So the I/O has moved around. Some people may like that, some people may not like that, some people may not care. I prefer them to be on the back, but if you're improving the cooling, this is justification. You're going to find a lot of that in this kind of conclusion where it's like, okay, they did that, but here's why they did that, right? I have not talked to Lenovo at all about this laptop, and I didn't even go to CES this year. I was too busy. So this is just like, I bought it, and this is how I'm explaining what's going on with this laptop from their point of view. Other changes, I mean, they do have this kind of bar here that are now offering up-firing speakers right there as well. Interesting stuff. What's the biggest change? Internally, we have brand new Blackwell GPUs. Fantastic. We have brand new Arrow-like CPUs from Intel. Fantastic. And the biggest change, I mean, there's all these changes I just said. The biggest change is an OLED screen. Right? Now all of a sudden we have OLED screens on Legion laptops. There's only been one ever Legion laptop with an OLED, and that was the Slim 5 AMD 14-inch model. There's one laptop from Lenovo with the OLED. Now all of a sudden it's on here, which is a major change. I loved the screen last year, the 100% DCI P3 IPS screen. It's fantastic. But I can see why people would want an OLED screen, because you still get that same color space, but you also now get very rich blacks. And because it's a glossy screen as well, you also get just more color vibrancy. That's one of the advantages of glossy screens. So first, let's go over the negatives with the laptop. Not necessarily just changes, but let's just go over the negatives with the laptop overall. Number one, price. Price. It's not necessarily Lenovo's fault. I mean, if you look at all of the OEMs this year so far, the prices have gone up a lot. Why is that? Well, first of all, we have inflation. That's a thing. We also have new Blackwell GPUs from NVIDIA. NVIDIA is charging a lot of money for those GPUs. So these companies need to pay a lot of money to buy them off of NVIDIA and then put them in the laptop. That's the way it is. There's also a brand new Intel Arrow-like CPU in here, the 275HX, at least on this model here. Again, these aren't old chips now. Now they're new technology. So you're paying more money to put that in here. You're also getting a higher speed RAM. That RAM is really expensive, by the way. I looked it up. 6400 megatransfers RAM in here. That's a big jump from the 5600 on previous generations. So again, not cheap parts. Lenovo's paying money to buy that RAM. They don't just get free RAM, and then they're putting it in these laptops. That's another expensive component there. We also have other changes as well. We have a brand new OLED screen on this laptop here. Lenovo has to pay money. They don't manufacture screens, so they have to pay money to get a screen to put in here. They, however, do design the internals and the chassis in that. And there are some major overhauls inside this laptop. So, yes, there is a big jump in price from previous generations. Not huge over launch prices, because this is still a launch price. They will go on sale. They will drop in price. Other negatives outside of the price, I mean, that's out of the way now. Obviously, we have the price covered. Black chassis. Some people don't care. For me, personally, it's prone to fingerprints that I don't like. I don't like to get fingerprints on my laptop. Honestly, if there are third parties that have skins, I wish Lenovo did it, but third parties that have skins, and you can buy them, like vinyl skins or whatever, you can put them on this laptop, get a slightly lighter color, gray, metallic, whatever, and get rid of the fingerprints. It's often what I would do. But, some people just don't care. Just give it a wipe down, get rid of the fingerprints. But if you're a fingerprint type of person like me who gets bothered by fingerprints. So that's one thing to be considerate of, as the actual fingerprints, the black chassis. I would prefer them to go back to the gray from 2022. That's so the like metallic gray. I just liked it. It's just very resistant to fingerprints. Other negativities is the screen is glossy. See that there? Yeah, my ring light there. It's definitely very glossy. Some OLEDs are not glossy. One of the advantages of non-glossy OLEDs, like say the Zephyrus G14, G16, is they actually have a little bit of like a speckling effect. If you get close up to solid colors, you can see a modeling effect. Some of them also have screen door effect. You don't have screen door effect on this at all. You also don't have a modeling effect. You just have a beautiful, vibrant, gorgeous OLED screen with also 100% DCI P3 color space, blah, 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 blah. But then you do have to deal with the reflections. There's negatives to reflections, but there's reasons why they did that. Other negatives, not really anything. I mean, moving the I/O from the back is kind of annoying because I like to have the power coming out of the back. It's not remotely a deal breaker for me because there's a reason why they did it. They improved the cooling on this laptop. That's really the only negatives I would say that are like, different from before, I guess. The other thing is battery. I mean, it doesn't have fantastic battery. It's an HX processor. 275 HX processor is literally a desktop processor, just mobilized and put into a laptop. So, I mean, it's incredibly powerful, but those have a harder time spinning down, like getting the watts down, getting the watts down, getting the watts down, have a harder time spinning down. That's one of the considerations of these desktop chips, where if you get into, like, for Intel, just the H chips, for example, those are true mobile chips and they're more efficient. So just be aware that you're not going to get fantastic battery life on this at all. It's still going to be okay. Like, you're going to still get a few hours out of it if you're a student or something, you're moving around. Fortunately, it does also accept USB-C charging, so you don't have to use the massive, power brick all the time to charge it. It's over here. I'm looking on the back now. It's not on the back anymore. You don't have to use that all the time if you're traveling. That's for gaming, really letting it rip, video editing, that kind of stuff. But if you're just using it, taking it to class, taking it to work, moving around with it, you can just charge it over USB-C. Get 100 watt GAN charger, and you're cooking. No problems there whatsoever. So that's basically overcome. Now, positives. There are a lot. Internally, this thing is very impressive. Very, very impressive. You have very fast RAM, 5600 megatransfers, 6400 megatransfers RAM. That's fantastic. Big upgrade there. Fastest RAM I've ever seen in a laptop to date, other than CAN memory and soldered, obviously. So that's fantastic. You have that giant heat shield across all of the extra components to keep them cool. So your SSDs are going to stay cool, your RAM's going to stay cool, your Wi-Fi is going to stay cool. Awesome. Dual NVMe, dual SODIMM, and upgradable Wi-Fi. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Then you have the actual cooling solution on the laptop itself. Very robust vapor chamber cooling in this laptop with dual fan right there and that little auxiliary fan. This thing runs very quiet and exceptionally cool. It could run cooler, but then it would be noisier, right? So it's kind of a trade-off, but I find it to be very, very acceptably cool, but also not noisy. This is a very quiet gaming laptop. Some laptops can get super loud. This is not a case of that. It actually runs very quiet for what it is. Even in performance mode, of course, you can throw in balance mode. There's a huge drop in noise. That's fantastic. And even in silent mode, it's going to be very, very quiet. As for the actual performance, outstanding. The CPU is very powerful, very, very powerful in this laptop. I guess technically it's the most powerful mobile chip I've used to date, personally, that I've used to date. There might be more. This is the beginning of this new generation, but this chip here matches the most powerful from last generation, and it's slightly faster than that. So that's fantastic. Awesome CPU performance there from Intel. I like to see Intel coming back. They kind of stagnated for a while there, a long time actually, and they've really started to come back, and I'm able to recommend their products again, and that is a fantastic feeling. Awesome. Good job, Intel. Keep it up. The GPU is fantastic. I mean, rip on NVIDIA all you want for charging a freaking fortune for everything and all of their other nonsense, but the 5080 is crazy powerful, right? It's not going to be leaps and bounds above the 4090, right? It's not going to absolutely rock a 4090. And then there's the 5090 that's faster than this, right? So you are paying a fair bit of money for that, but you do still get a lot of performance. The 5080 is very performant in this laptop. Very, very powerful for 1440p or 1600p gaming. You're basically maxing everything out. Max out every single game and just play, and you're going to get really good frames in every single game, at least for now, at least for a while, to be honest. 4K gaming is obviously going to be very capable as well. Throw it on a 4K external screen, which I've done, already recorded it. It performs very well, right? It's not surprising. It's a 5080. I think that the 5070 Ti, which I haven't tested yet, is going to be a good value option because it does have 12 gigabytes of VRAM. There is a boost there to the VRAM and the performance, of course. So I think the 5070 Ti is going to be a great option on this chassis if you want to keep costs down. I think the 5090 is, it's just going to be super powerful. I haven't tested it, but based on the specs and comparing them, and I've tested the desktop components. I've tested a 5070 Ti desktop and a 5080 Ti, just kind of know roughly how they work. I think that the 5090 is going to be very powerful in this. It is not a desktop 5090, just so you know. This is also not a desktop 5080. Okay, just get that out of the way. They don't have the cooling capacity or the ability to provide enough power to have a desktop 5080 in here. Sometimes I see comments and they're like, but there's not a 5080 desktop in there. Be reasonable. However, it's very performant. Okay, so the performance on a laptop is Better than expected, actually. It's very good. I wasn't sure what to expect. It's very good. So no complaints there at all. The audio is very, very, very good. Awesome. Having these speakers here at firing is an improvement. It's fantastic. The keyboard is awesome, just like every single year. Great to type on. Great trackpad. Awesome. No problems there. And then we get to the big thing, the OLED screen. The OLED screen here is a huge improvement this year for a lot of people. I am the type of person who does love a very, very high quality IPS screen. I love last year's screen because it was 100% DCI-P3 color space, bright IPS screen. It's all that I want in the world. This one here, and it's non-glossy. This one here, there's a few changes. I mean, you're getting the same color space, 100% DCI-P3 color space, so the colors are going to be exactly the same as last year. It's not going to be any more vibrant than last year in terms of the color space at all. What you are getting here is you're getting OLED blacks. So those OLED blacks mean that this laptop is going to have absolute blacks. Very, very, very nice for content consumption, watching movies, watching shows, of course, content creation, and gaming. Right? We did Black Myth in this video here. Black Myth looks fantastic when you have an OLED because there's really dark blacks in certain areas. You get a huge contrast spike there. It looks gorgeous. Now, it is a glossy screen, as I said before, but glossy has benefits. It's not all negative, having it reflective. You can see here that I'm able to hold this in a way that you can't see reflections. That's how it is when I use it. I'm not like gaming like that with a freaking circle in the middle. I'm gaming like that. But the advantage of glossy is it's more vibrant. A matte screen, if it's IPS or OLED, doesn't matter, it's going to dim down the colors. Yes, I have used OLEDs that are slightly matte or completely anti-reflective. They still look great, they have good blacks and everything, but it does actually make the blacks a little bit less deep and it makes the colors less rich. So having an OLED screen like this that is also glossy, yes, it's glossy, so that can be a negative for some people. Right, it's going to be glossy. You're going to have reflections depending if you're in a bright environment. But the positives are the screen is going to be outstanding. Vibrant, beautiful screen. So it's a bit of a trade-off depending on what you need. For me, I think it's worth it. You do get the gloss. And if that's not your thing, don't buy it. Right? But if you're okay with that, this screen is going to shock you. It's going to be gorgeous. So I think that's it. I think that's really all we need to talk about here on the Lenovo Legion Pro 7i 2025. I'm going to have game video follow-ups, as I said in the intro. I mean, it's a fantastic laptop. The only thing that actually bothers me about this laptop is that it's a black chassis. I mean, there's other things that are like pluses and minuses. It's expensive, but whatever, that's life, right? I mean, if the laptop was cheaper, sure, that'd be fantastic. But the only thing that like Lenovo really has control over, as being a business, trying to make money, it's not that part, is the black chassis. Please, for the love of God, Lenovo, I know it looks good when it's clean and fresh, and, it looks nice when it's wiped down, and it is a nice kind of, package there, but I don't like fingerprints on my laptops, right? Like, I'm giving you guys a glaring positive review here, but please, please give me another option that's not black. Like gray, dark gray, the white, the 7i, the white one. It's amazing. Imagine this thing in white. Man, that would look nice. But anyways, that's it. So that's the review here. Everything is awesome. There's, basically issues with, if you have the glossy issue, it's super expensive and it has a black chassis. Otherwise, it's pretty much a slam dunk for Lenovo. They really came out swinging here. What more could you want? I mean, it's a powerful, beautiful laptop that runs quiet. You get access to that Lenovo Legion warranty, and it's super robust. And then you can call yourself a legionary or a legionnaire. I don't know, whatever. That's the laptop. That's the review.